Good morning and welcome to our distinguished guests, parents, staff and students for our 2018 ANZAC Day ceremony. ANZAC Day began in 1915 during the First World War when the Australians and New Zealand troops landed at Gallipoli. ANZAC Day has grown to be much more than that now. It's a day we remember all Australians who served and died in the war and operational service. The spirit of ANZAC, with its qualities of courage, mateship and sacrifice, continue to have meaning and relevance for our sense of pride and national identity. Before I hand over to our school captains, Wilbur and Reese, can I please ask that you turn all mobile phone devices off and you please be respectful of our presenters today. Can you remain attentive and courteous? And as it is a solemn occasion, I please ask that you remain silent when instructed to do so. Please do not applaud our presenters.
I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land on which we gather and pay my respects to elders both past and present. It was over a century ago that in the darkness before dawn, the ANZAC stormed ashore in a place now known as ANZAC Cove. It was Australia's first major contribution to the world. We had only been a nation for 14 years. 2,000 ANZACs were dead by the end of that day, but through perseverance, courage and comradeship, they held their ground. It was certainly a baptism of fire. The campaign lasted another 8 months, and in that time nearly 8,000 Australians were killed and another 78,000 wounded. We should never forget the deeds, courage and fortitude of these original ANZACs. They established a tradition and sense of national pride that we should be proud to follow and uphold. Yet the campaign was a failure, and all of the battlefields on which Australians have died. It is a disastrous Gallipoli campaign that has come to symbolise the Australian soldiers' courage, determination, fighting prowess, humour and mateship. The essence of Gallipoli was that in the face of adversity and potential defeat, the Australian spirit triumphed.
On ANZAC Day, we salute the spirit of the ANZACs, and in paying tribute to them, we take the opportunity to dedicate ourselves to striving for our country as they did and upholding their finest qualities of courage, commitment, endurance and mateship. ANZAC Day is not commemoration of the victories or defeats of the Australian Armed Forces at war. Instead, it is a chance to simply remember that individual, ordinary men and women who were and are prepared to make personal sacrifices. Even today, there are those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, giving their lives for the freedom and quality of life that we enjoy today.
We take time today as a school and tomorrow as a nation to acknowledge all current and former members of our Defence Forces, the brave men and women who represent our country on a daily basis. While we remember the brave young men who stormed the beach, we also pay homage to today's veterans, the young men and women who are returning from duty in places like Afghanistan, Iraq, Solomon Islands and Timor-Leste. Today we are lucky enough to have Captain Brian Brown joining us. Captain Brown enlisted into the British Army in January 1995, and after completing basic training and initial trade, Captain Brown was posted to Germany as a radio technician. During this posting, Captain Brown was deployed to Macedonia, Kosovo and Bosnia. After returning to the UK, he was further deployed to Afghanistan, Kuwait and Iraq. After being promoted to the rank of Staff Surgeon in 2004, Captain Brown returned to Germany, and a year later was posted to the NATO Joint Warfare Centre in Norway. During this posting, he applied successfully to transfer to the Australian Defence Force. After completing his initial officer's training at RMC, Captain Brown was allocated to the Royal Australian Army Ordnance Corps and posted to the Army School of Ordnance. During this posting at ASO, a bad parachute landing left him with a broken back. After retraining as an ammunition technical officer, he deployed to the Middle East region between June and December 2016. Captain Brown currently lives in Wodonga with his wife Catherine and 3 children. Welcome, Captain Brown.
Good morning. Loud. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all today. As you'll be aware, tomorrow the nation commemorates ANZAC Day, the anniversary of the landing of the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps troops at Gallipoli. But of course, it's not just Gallipoli we remember on this day, nor is it even the First World War. This is a day set aside for us to collectively give thanks to all those men and women who've put their lives at risk and in many cases paid the supreme price. It's appropriate, therefore, that we revisit the reasons why we commemorate ANZAC Day and exactly what it means to us. The soldiers that landed at Gallipoli, and all those that served in the First World War, were volunteers. They all chose to join the military in the full knowledge that they'd be sent to fight and potentially die. Australia did not introduce conscription, which is compulsory service, until 1942, which then carried on through the Second World War, Korean War, the Vietnam conflict, and was abolished in December 1972. So the men and women that currently serve in the Australian military also do so entirely by choice. And choice is what I'd like to speak to you about today. As teenagers transitioning from childhood through to adulthood, you've begun to be presented with an ever-increasing amount of choices on a daily basis. Some of these choices are large, some are small. Some seem very important, some seem inconsequential. I don't have any answers for you, but I do have a little bit of advice. It'll come as somewhat of a surprise to those of you that can see me quite well in the front rows, that it doesn't seem like very long ago that I was at school. Yes, I am really this old. I can clearly remember not really knowing what I wanted to do when I left school. I wasn't a very good student, and I'll freely admit to having my priorities all wrong, all the way from junior school till quite a few years after I left school. Some of the easy decisions I made as a young man had consequences that reached way further and lasted longer than I ever thought possible. And yet some of the hardest decisions, the ones I really struggled with, had very little effect on my life. Easy decisions often seem like they don't require any thought at all. For instance, you think, I'm useless at maths, so I'm just going to wag instead and go down the shops. This is a pre-made decision wrapped up in a statement. The trick is to understand that being useless at maths is a choice that you're making. Okay? If you don't want to be useless, you just need to practice. So my advice is, define success in terms that matter to you, and make your decisions with that success in mind. So by means of an explanation, perhaps you decide that you would like to be a doctor or a lawyer or a veterinarian. First, you'll research what qualifications you'll need, then you'll select what subjects you need to complete at year 12 to enable that. And then you really got to start getting your head in the books. Being useless at maths is a choice that you're making. Okay? If you don't want to be useless, you just need to practice. So my advice is, define success in terms that matter to you, and make your decisions with that success in mind. So by means of an explanation, perhaps you decide that you would like to be a doctor or a lawyer or a veterinarian. First, you'll research what qualifications you'll need, then you'll select what subjects you need to complete at year 12 to enable that. And then you really got to start getting your head in the books. If you need to pass an exam at university, for instance, the decision to not go out partying the night before is easy to make, provided you're focused. So if you make all your decisions based on instant gratification without a goal in mind, or allow others to make decisions for you, you lose control of your life. But the responsibility for those decisions will still lie with you. Be aware of the consequences of your decisions. The men and women that choose to serve in the defence of Australia do so knowing that they may be called upon to put themselves in harm's way. Some look forward to testing themselves, some fear it, but they're all aware that when the time comes, Australia will expect them to honour their contract, and they stand ready to do just that. ANZAC Day is not a day for honouring war, for war is not something to be honoured. War is something that's used as a last resort when diplomacy has failed, and is used by a nation to safeguard its sovereignty. We do, however, on ANZAC Day, honour the people of Australia who have undertaken warfare to protect that sovereignty, no matter how distasteful it may have been to them personally, and in spite of the risk of them losing their lives. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Captain Brown. I'd now like to invite Madison Leah to read the poem We Shall Keep the Faith by Moyna Michael.
American schoolteacher Mania Mitchell wrote this poem after reading John McCrae's poem In Flanders Fields. Mania is also responsible for the idea of using a poppy, such as so many of us are wearing today, as a symbol of remembrance. Oh, you who sleep in Flanders Fields, sleep sweet to rise anew. We caught the torch you threw, and holding high, we keep the faith with all who die. We cherish too the poppy red that grows on fields where Vela led. It seems to signal to the skies that blood of heroes never die, of the flower that blooms above the dead in Flanders Fields. And now the torch and poppy red we wear in honour of our dead. Fear not that ye have died for naught, we'll teach the lesson that they wrought in Flanders Fields. Thank you.
Tomorrow, on Anzac Day, the wreaths we're about to lay will be placed at the Wodonga War Memorial. After the laying of the wreaths today, Harry Kay will recite the ode, and we will then observe the traditional last post. The last post is a final farewell, and it symbolises that the duty of the dead is over and that they can now rest in peace. This will be followed by 1 minute of silence. Please show your respect by remaining silent until the rouse plays. The rouse symbolises the awakening for a better world. Please stand. Scarlet Rook and Brad Ski will now lay the wreath.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget. Our vocal ensemble will now lead us into the national anthem. Please stand and sing along.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth full toil. Our home is girt by sea, our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beneath our radiant Southern Cross, we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this commonwealth of ours renowned of all the lands. For those who come across the seas, we've boundless plains to share. With courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Please remain standing as the catapult party dismounts. You may be seated. Today we have thought about the values that have shaped our country for the last 118 years. We hope that we will continue to make the ANZACs proud in the choices that we make every day. We have paid respects to the sacrifices the ANZAC made, and we have pledged to remember the freedom that was earned and thank the soldiers both past and present. ANZAC pins will be available today from your student leaders. Please listen to Mr. Foraker for further instructions. Thank you for your attention.
Good morning, everyone. That brings our ceremony this morning to a close. I'd firstly like to congratulate the student leaders on running another fantastic ANZAC Day ceremony. It's a big ticket item on our annual school calendar, so congratulations to the student leaders, and also congratulations to you, the students at Wodonga Middle Years College, for your involvement this morning. There were some wonderful messages this morning, and I hope that something resonated with you, and you take the time either today or tomorrow and reflect on how fortunate we are to live in such a great country.